Hello Hero, it's Lucy Lannon. This one's a little bit more off the cuff than usual, so apologies for any changes in sound or setup. First thing to say is that I feel like a garden centre right now. Althea usually joins us, and Sarah Sanderson has started to. Don't mind her paint, I did try and remove it. But this rose is completely new. Actually, it's as yet unnamed, so let me know in the comments what you think she should be called. But this one wanted to join in as well, and she doesn't normally live here or anywhere near this table. So I feel that for many of you watching, a rose will confirm something about your name or something in the reading, or the fact that I've got lots of plants and feel like a garden centre right now. It's possible confirmation of something to do with what we're going to be talking about. The other thing that I want to say before we begin, and I've never said this before, but I'm going to start to, is that I know it's popular on many other channels for people to begin with some form of warding, some form of protection, a kind of opening prayer to give the audience an indication of what is being sort of used for those things and to help you to feel safe and sound and just set the tone. Whilst I appreciate all of those things, and it's been very it's been useful for me to see other people request that or acknowledge it on other channels, my practitioner training has specifically told me to do my warding, do my protecting off camera before each reading, because it's a little bit like when people are sticking their altars on Instagram, where at a certain level of practice, if you know what somebody's using or calling on, you can kind of hack it, right? And I'm not saying that to breed fear. And if you are someone who shows off their kit and caboodle online, I'm sure that you have other places that you work in more secrecy, or perhaps this message was just for you to be aware of changing things up once you've disclosed stuff like that. But for me, I still don't feel it's appropriate to share my warding and pre-reading protection and grounding process. I just want to let you guys know that it does happen, right? It's not that because you don't see me calling on this angel and that deity and saying, please protect my aura for this many layers, that those things aren't being considered and used. But there are certain points at which, you know, I talk a lot on the channel about what my religious and spiritual affiliations are, but magically speaking, ritualistically speaking, and particularly with regards to warding against things like evil eye, I would prefer to keep all of that private to me, and I hope that you would understand. Confirmation in the comments if you are another practitioner and you get it, or if you've kind of seen a change in that anywhere, or I don't know, I'm just interested to know what you think, because I don't want it to be like a reason that people don't feel safe on the channel, but also genuine safety sometimes means secrecy, right? And that's not shade again on anybody who's using open prayers or sharing what they use or anything like that. It's just to say that protection is happening. It's happening in more and more secret ways because that's what the guidance is for me, right? So I don't have to be the same as anybody else, and I hope that you'll stick around. Right, after that brief announcement, sorry guys, but that just needed to come through and come out. We're here because I was in vision and I was told there's a woman, she's like you, she has your sight. Now, I'm a quarter blind, so I said, do you mean that? Because I was getting that sort of vision as well, that kind of what you get when you have a migraine, where you get electrical kind of very geometric looking fancy patterns, right? And it wasn't that, but that was still relevant. So there's a reason that I'm saying that. If this reading is for you, and I don't know what it's on yet, so you'll know from the title more than I do, there's something about a woman who, if you have these abilities or adjacent discipline abilities, there is somebody either coming to you or that you're involved with at the minute who is a woman who has these. And I want to say, you know, somebody who identifies as a woman very specifically. I know we don't always do that in tarot, but this is female, right? And she's important in some way. I felt that she was like a mentor figure for me, maybe, but then it was like, well, this isn't for you. It's like, oh, sorry guys. And yeah, so she has She sees things like you, she has your sight, was what was said to me, but then not in that way. So if this person is partially sighted or whatever, that may be a confirmation, but they don't need to be. What's being pointed to here is somebody around you that has the sight, or that sees things spiritually in the same paradigm as you. If it's not relevant, if you don't have psychic abilities, or you, well, everyone does, but if you haven't woken yours up yet, or they're not very focused or whatever, so you don't class yourself as having the sight right now, this is about somebody within a similar paradigm. Even if that paradigm is atheistic or skeptical, everyone's welcome here. You can just take this reading as a thought experiment. I should have said that, right? Yeah, there is a woman who has your sight. And then I said, well, how will I know her? And I got an image of her walking in the cold, sort of against snow and wind and stuff, which at this time of year in where I am, that's quite a common thing, but it might not be where you are. And her teeth were chattering, right? And her hair was wild. So that may apply, and that might be how you know her in terms of where you are in the world, or in terms of something symbolic around her. You know, this could be a folkloric figure that's to do with second sight, but also things like snow or winter, or kind of, you know, hag stuff is what I want to say very broadly. But equally, if you're not affiliated with that, it might be a real person that you've come across in those kinds of weather. Or this could be, if you're not in a part of the world that gets really cold weather where your teeth chatters, this could be either someone you've seen on something fictional, or someone that for some reason at the time you saw them still has wild hair and chattering teeth. That might be a health thing, right? You might have witnessed somebody, I don't want to trigger anyone, but you might have witnessed someone having a fit, right? And those are some of the things of maybe the hair got messed up, maybe the teeth were chattering during, or there was some kind of convulsion thing. Or maybe the teeth were chattering, as an adrenaline thing, like someone you saw in the theme park and they had wild hair. Whatever it is, right? This person, keeping it broad because this is a general reading for a large audience, this person is your confirmation that you're in the right place. And we're going to explore why they're turning up for you, what it is to you, why this stuff about second sight is coming up. I'm also going to use my fairies oracle, which I use in my private readings, link down below, but I've never really used on the channel because it does require the book. So I hope you'll forgive me interpreting using the book just this one time. It's not because I don't know the cards, it's because it's just kind of easier to make the translation in Brian Froud and Jessica Macbeth's words for this one. But in terms of other decks, we're going to be using the archetype cards pretty much as usual, and then this Maxfield Parish playing card deck, which I will use in lieu of tarot. It's a cartomancy deck for me, okay? So, right, all of that being said, hello. Right, so this is a refractor. This is something I use to reflect the light from around the room. I also put it in my window to get rainbows, so you might be LGBT plus or LGB or whatever you identify as. It fell off its stand because we're refracting, we're seeing in a different way, right? And then I split the deck and we got Don Juan and Healer. If you are here for a love reading, particularly to do with someone who's perhaps very sexually open, or if you're here for the healing art specifically, you're not going to hear what it is that you came to hear, right? Doesn't mean the reading's not for you. I'm going to separate these actually. Separate these. Lol. Doesn't mean the reading's not for you. It just means that I'm going to tell you now, in case I'm disappointing anybody, the focus isn't going to be your love life or you as a healer and your role. This is about something else. I don't know what it's about, but we're getting clues all the time, right? Okay, let's shuffle these big boys and see what we need to know. That one's come out. Let's get some reversals in this as well. Again, it's coming up about weather because I feel I'm in a very warm flat right now, and I'm by some incense but not close enough to be kind of chokeable. And yet my chest feels how it would if I was walking again against a snowstorm, right? So there's something here about that. you might have started working with somebody who's like, who's a healer, so it wasn't about you, but it's still coming out. They want one more. Liberator. All right. And they're all in the upright, even though I put reversals in, so that's always nice. So we've got determination to remain young in body, mind and spirit, and ability to see things with fresh eyes. Then we've got passion to serve others by repairing the body, mind and spirit, and ability to help transform pain into healing. So this is somebody who can perhaps see you objectively or see others in a very objective way that then facilitates transformation. Now that could be in any field. So just because we call someone a healer doesn't mean they're a hands-on Reiki practitioner or anything like that. It means that through the way that they view the universe, they sort of conduct themselves and speak in certain ways that wake other people up, right? And I'm being urged to do that. I don't know why. Maybe it's like a wake up. Maybe you've been like slapped awake, or there's been a bang in your house recently as like a confirmation thing for you. It's something to do with all this. Freeing yourself and others from outmoded beliefs and releasing negative thought patterns. Again, a healer is somebody who helps somebody else to think in a different way. I do apologise for my nails, but also, like I say, this is very off the cuff. And also, I do sometimes need to keep my nails bare because of oxygen issues. Don't know whether I've said that before. I think I have. So don't be ableist, all right? Anyway. All right, let's get the fairies oracle involved. I don't know why I'm doing this before tarot, but I'm drawn to, so... and again, we're getting reversals, are we? Yep. All right. They're in the deck now. Too late now. Sorry guys, if you've not been on the channel before, I do tend to like film quote madly to myself whilst reading. Okay, I'm not going to take this guy because that's a reference for me to something. It's she of the, I'm going to mispronounce this, Crack? Got my channel Lucy Lan on and I don't even know how to pronounce some of this kind of stuff. Okay, so we've got a 5. Let's hop into the book for now. And I'm hearing book. So again, some of you are practitioners, some of you are witches, etc. But again, this isn't about you, is what I'm hearing, in the nicest possible way, my dudes. This is about somebody that's either coming into your life or in your life who has the sight and healing abilities. Come on. 5. All right. I'm not going to read the full interpretation, but I'm going to do keywords and the starter interpretation. So we've got the receptive principle, nurturing, fertility. This could be like a maternal figure. I was getting kind of mommy vibes, but I didn't really want to say because that seems very general, you know, or a generalization when you talk about a female figure. Right. She of the word I can't pronounce may indicate a form of pregnancy and necessary time of nurturing and development. We need to be open to her overflowing grace. She may also indicate a need to allow her nurturing grace to flow through us to others in the form of unconditional love and giving and spiritual healing. So you're kind of watching this person who liberates people from their own thought processes. Why is an accent trying to come through me that's like, oh, on, instead of own, on? I don't know what that is. Hit me up in the comments. Anyway, yeah, this person liberates people from their own thought patterns, possibly their own self-concept, but certainly the way they see the world by being an eternal child themselves. And that is their healing modality. They may have others, they may add to it, they may also have the sight, etc. But this is very much about somebody who is thinking in a way that is caring enough to banish uncaring thinking is what I want to say. Where were we? She tells us of the need for unconditional receiving, of making the best of what we are offered. She also reminds us that unbounded love and grace is ours, just waiting to be accepted. The presence of this card in a reading, come on, voice, stop it, radiates comfort and nurturing to the cards around it. I have a mirror facing me right now, and I'm going to do something that I don't tend to do on the channel and I just do in private practice, which is to say that whatever's trying to change my voice right now, can I see it? Thanks. Okay, so she's older. She's quite a bit older. She might have like a crease between her eyes, because I don't, but I'm seeing it now. Sorry guys, if you're new to me, I can do a kind of visual shape-shifting thing. Again, it's entirely protected and warded, don't worry about it. It's just one of my visual gifts that I have. Yeah, so she's got a crease kind of between the eyes at the front. It's in the place where the third eye would be, but it extends right up her middle of her head. Or for some of you, she wears a marking down the middle of her forehead, or a sort of, I don't know whether it's paint or a bindi or something, but there's a big shadow here that I don't have. Then there's creases at the sides of her mouth. I can't remember what those are called, but I think of them as Linda Perry creases, because she has fantastic ones and I really fancy her. That's a side note. But those sort of, you know, corners of your nose to corners of your mouth lines, again, are being very much enhanced on me. And this isn't lighting, this is me seeing a superimposition of faces to describe a person, right? Again with the wild hair, again with the walking against the snow. I feel that this person may have a completely different complexion to you, so depending on who I'm reading for, you'll know what that means. I don't think it's entirely the opposite, but I think it's a few shades darker or lighter in either direction, depending on whether you're very pale or whether you're very dark-skinned. What else do I want to say? So her, what is that in terms of objective? Her right eye to her, so left eye as you're looking at it, I think, has like a, I want to say it's got a scar under it, or like a crease or a mark, or for some it's like a tear, or she has been crying, or there's just something about like that eye. And now I'm seeing Death from the Sandman, the original comics, and the sort of pattern that she has under one eye. It looks almost like an eye of Horus, like an Egyptian thing. So there's something, if it's not that she has like a physical mark in that area of her face, there's something here about looking a bit goth, or sort of doing makeup in that elaborate way, or even something about Egyptian lineage, or working with the Ankh, or, you know, you do you here in terms of associations, because again, it's really difficult to be specific for what I'm hoping will be a very large audience to this, and it is timeless, so take whatever you need. But yeah, so a big crease in the middle of her forehead, or some kind of mark or symbol or line. Something about her left eye that's unusual and links to that Death in Sandman thing. Wild hair, possibly a little older than you, or just has very deep lines in the face. Again, walking against the snow makes me think this person might be quite weathered in like a pleasant way, you know, they look like they've been gardening, again, with all the plants. And again, these recesses sort of between the nose and the sides of the mouth are a little bit exaggerated for them. And if this is describing you, I don't want to say it's unattractive when I'm saying you look slightly older or whatever, because this face has a lot of wisdom. It's just different. It's different to my face, and it's different to kind of what I expected to see, I suppose. So this is almost so specific that I'm nervous about putting it up, but I'm sure it will hit for someone, or parts of it will hit for many of you. So let me know in the comments what works for you. I haven't put reversals in these, and I've already picked out 3. Let's go. Thank you. Oh, you want the other way now, do you? Alright, come on small boys. Thank you. Now why didn't you want to turn over? That one's meant to be hidden, is it? Sorry guys, I'm getting more info as I go. I'll be with you in just one moment. Feel free to play any lift music of your choice. I'm now hearing the thing from the Eric Andre show, the We'll Be Right Back music. Thanks, Spirit. Always speaking my language. Oh, you will be on camera, will you? Right, we can afford to have 3 down there then. Why do you want to come out? You've been bugging me for a while, haven't you? And then, is it top side? Yep. Alright. We can always get more, but I'm going to send you off here. Excuse me while I mute this and take a sip. I try to go on a nature walk at least once a day. And today I've been seeing squirrels. And the reason I've been seeing so many in particular today, even though I always kind of look for them, somebody's view is askance, somebody's perspective is tilted. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, the reason that I've been seeing so many squirrels today is because they were making a noise like a bird. I've never witnessed this. I'm usually up on a lot of forms of wildlife, but not particularly on squirrels, because like round here they're quite common. And I heard what can only be described as like a screaming and quacking in the tree. And I thought I'd come across a new and exciting bird call and kind of stood and waited for a bit. And it was this fat squirrel showing its arse, yelling at another squirrel with this particular call that sounded like a bird call. So I don't know what that was. Maybe if you're more naturey than me, you can tell me in the comments, right? I suspect they're gathering supplies for the winter at the moment, so this may be to do with that. And certainly there were many of them, as I started to notice them along the way, gathering and eating and sort of stashing, right? So there is that energy. But then also this Four of Diamonds is about that energy. And with the tree being here and the people languishing under it in a very similar light to my walk earlier, I do feel that there's something about that for you before we begin. Excuse me, confirmation in the form of hiccups. It happens from time to time, sorry guys. If you are an investing person, or you've recently come into money and you're kind of not sure what to do with it or where to keep it safe, you need to watch that and put it somewhere where it's going to grow, right? So this isn't just about preserving your resources at this time. This is about actively putting them into a place that they can get bigger. So see, you know, in the UK it'd be an ISA and stocks and shares and things. In the US it might be like a Roth, I think it's Roth IRA or something like that. You do you. Again, share in the comments what you do in your particular country, because I can't speak for everyone, but there's something here about stashing, about storing, about preserving for the winter that needs to come in before any of this can really be told. Now, for many of you, this is a metaphysical message. This isn't necessarily just about cash or just about food or whatever it is. Oh, some of you, you may get a storm soon. Make sure you've got enough shopping in. That's just a side note. Anyway, particularly in the UK, I don't know why. Timeless reading. Do whatever. Yeah, this may be a metaphysical thing about storing what it is that you normally do, what it is that you normally use, the knowledge, the techniques that you've been using thus far, and putting them, investing them into something bigger. Now, remember at the beginning when I said about the vision of this woman, I had the feeling that she was a mentor. For some of you, this is a consolidation of everything that you've been learning in spiritual circles, whether that's very actively and sort of interactively, or whether it's just like watching things on TikTok that have to do with spirituality. You're putting all of the stuff that you've gained from that all together in one place, and you're saying, I'm going to come to this particular mentor with my gifts and be studying under them, because their particular form of healing or thinking is going to be useful moving forward. Again, a tell for this person could be a description that I gave of my face. It could be to do with pregnancy, or you could be pregnant, congratulations. Or it could be to do with being pregnant with that kind of set of new skills, right? You've got all the cells in you, they're ready to kind of nourish what will become a baby, in inverted commas. And that's even for those who really don't want to ever have children, but you get where I'm going with this. There's something possibly about having to invest materially in this as well. So if you've been contemplating doing a course or traveling to learn something under someone, or particularly to hear a certain woman speak, this is your heads up that that is a great idea. Now, yeah, again, for some it could be healing modality stuff, but for many of you this is more about somebody who can teach you paradigm shifting, or somebody who can bring you back into a state of feeling within your own eternal child energy. So for some of you, I want to say, even before we begin here, that you might have been in very sort of masculine, very active, very adult head energy. You might have been doing a lot of what we millennials, scathingly refer to as adulting. Or you may have felt the need to be in survival mode for a long time, and you're now coming into a place where you're in a position of relative stability, symbolised by 4, and also by 2 here, because we've separated these elements, right? There's something alchemical going on. And you're now ready to, again, consolidate, bring together, push into something new. But it's by reaching into your childlike energy, not into your adult energy. So even if this is like, for instance, a magical course of study that requires a lot of intellectual pursuit within it, and again, that won't hit for everyone, large audience, I would want to say that it's done by a person who can be childlike in the best possible way, or that it requires a certain childlike innocence from you in order that you can function correctly within its paradigm and use the skills therein. If all of this is sounding like opaque nonsense to you, this is simply pointing to somebody in your near future that fits the description somehow, that is going to liberate you from your current thought patterns and bring you back into a childlike enjoyment of your own life. Remember, with this card, we talked about receptivity as well. You can only truly step into a receptive space when you are focusing on, I want to say, when you're living like a sensualist or an aesthete, or coming into some kind of awareness that each moment is precious, that there are no non-precious activities, that there are no activities which you can prevent from one day becoming a memory. So it's about time we made everything important. Does that make sense? There's a sensation that somebody's coming in for you, walking against the snow, whatever that means to you, or teeth chattering, or whatever it was, who is going to teach you, I want to say, to appreciate your environment moment to moment, and therefore to liberate yourself from what it was that used to prevent you being a healer and liberator of others, which can be true even if that's how you identify. I know I have a lot of people on the channel who think of themselves as light workers, and I don't like the word, but I like the term, right? Not a fan of the terminology or the sort of exclusionary nature of it, but I like the idea that we're being beneficial to other people. And if you felt almost like you're too busy in survival mode to be beneficial, then this is it. This is your reading, and this is the next step for you, this encounter with this woman and the stashing of resources so that you can consolidate your efforts and put them into something to do with her, whether that's in a purely physical way or in a physical and a metaphorical way. Man, that was a long sort of introductory energy bit. I'm sorry, guys. It took a while to unravel, but let's get further into the deep dive bit. I'm going to take another sip, just one moment. There's a real feeling of thirst here. So, two interpretations. One you can see coming a mile off. Some of you may be feeling thirsty, right? You may be desirous of stepping into your sexuality more than you have, or if you do embrace your sexuality, there might be a kind of feeling that you could go deeper with it, or you could experience a different aspect to it, which perhaps isn't normalized in your circles, but is something you're pulled towards. That's one side of this. The other side for thirst is that it's to do with water in the body, emotion, whether you feel dried out like a Fremen at all times, right? Whether You feel like you have to conserve your every last resource into a thigh pad. I'm sorry for the gross imagery, but that's what universe is giving me for you sci-fi fans. It's almost like there is a feeling that every last expression of emotion for you must be intentional lest it is not wasted. That's what's coming through with that image. And if you're not into Dune or you're not a sci-fi guy, don't look up thigh pads, please. Just take the message as I've given it. It's just about resources, right? And it's about feeling that your emotional expression, in this case, sweat, tears, and other things from the body, is something that has to be conserved or kind of monitored. I feel that part of you stepping back into a childlike nature or a childlike appreciation for each moment as being equally pressing to the last one and not made of practice moments and then real life, right? All of that is going to come about when there's some kind of emotional release for you. And I think that this female figure is going to facilitate that release. So again, if this is deific, you already know what to do, right? We're just going to go further into it. But for many of you, this is a real person that you'll come across that signifies a particular situation that you need to go further into in order to release. Yeah. All right. Now, the Joker of the negative. Negative meaning astrological polarity. So we've got earth and water here. Again, this is like you feeling like your emotions were a bit of a joke. Or perhaps people mocking you for your emotional expression. I want to say when you were younger, because this figure is not yet clothed, so they're kind of still in a state of Edenic innocence, right? It's kind of, you know, Adam and Eve before the fall type imagery of when you were too young to know. I feel like your emotions were expressed and then that wasn't well received. With the moon in the background, this may not even be an experience you consciously remember, but if I'm speaking to the right person here, you know you had it. The signs you had it are that you can't be expressive with it now, right? And I've got my right ear completely popped like I'm on a ride, and in, you know, where I'm from, it's left full of right for spite. So this could be an indication that you feel that people will be shit talking you if you express emotively. Can you unpop that, please? It's really annoying. No, we're just dealing with it. Oh, it's just something you've carried on with. Right, so there's been a feeling of tension around expression and you've just kind of gone on and been like, right, well, I guess I'll normalise this forever. If the memory thing doesn't hit, or you had a very happy time as a kid, or you've always been encouraged to express emotion, there's still something here about feeling a way and then carrying on regardless, as if you don't feel that way. So that it could be that this is a more recent thing, but this kind of state of innocence bit is relevant, right? It's some point at which it should have been safe to express yourself and you were mocked or rebuffed, or you were afraid of being spoken about when you did express. And now it's like, I guess I'll internalize everything forever. Amen. No, boo. No. No. Love you. You don't have to do that, right? And it's actually important for your role as inspirer to other people, as liberator, of your friends, family, and maybe even wider circle, that you start to express. Also, what I want to say, and this isn't to guilt you if you did have a bad experience in childhood or adulthood, but if you can't express, this is going to damage others, right? At some point, you're going to run into this thing where the shadow eternal child comes in because the light side hasn't been able to express itself, right? The light side is currently in your shadow in the Jungian sense. And if that's not expressed, the way that it becomes demonstrative to you and says, hey, I'm here, I need to get out, is through the shadow attributes. So these include an inability to grow up and be responsible, extreme dependency on others for physical security. If you have found yourself in fears about being financially or emotionally reliant upon other people, or fears about being a man-child, a woman-child, not being as advanced as your peers in some way, or not being like down to earth in the way that you conduct yourself, or adult enough for your age, whatever age you are. This isn't happening yet, but this is an expression of like that child in you wanting healing and saying, listen, if this healing doesn't happen, if we don't learn to emotionally express, we are going to be unable to grow up. We are going to be seen as dependent. We are going to have to take money from other people because functionality in the broader sense, and certainly in the material sense, is going to shut down, right? We're talking everything from you could have a period of depression all the way over to your body could change overnight and make you unable to live the way that you've been living, right? Because this is the inner body, not yet in a state of emergency, but saying, hey, we should probably express that stuff that we always hold back because it's going to actively harm us if we don't, right? And these are the sort of indicators of how that harm might become. Now, that's not prescriptive or predictive, and again, I'm not a physical or mental health practitioner of any kind, and these readings are for entertainment purposes, but you know, it's almost like this reading is speaking already to your broader destiny as a person, and you can also liberate people and heal people and do so with ideas and do so with a childlike nature and create and be this nurturing force for others if you invest in it through this woman, whoever she is, right? But if you reject that call that's been expressed so far, what will happen is that life will kind of force you to look at these issues, right? There's the easy way, which is to go to this mentor or person or skill set or whatever it represents to you, and to offer up, like, I want to express these emotions, I want to feel again, I want to think about these things that I've been pushing down to function, and, you know, saying some form of prayer to whoever it is or some form of request to whoever it is. Or there's the path where you don't do any of that, so life just goes, we're going to make you heal by throwing a load of shit at you, right? And if you're new to the channel, I speak very much as somebody who's had that happen in utterly demonstrative ways over about a 10-year period, just being barraged of like, listen, you know what you're meant to be doing, why aren't you doing it? If you carry on not doing it, we're going to take this away, we're going to remove this person, we're going to make you partially blind, we're going to stop you from being able to do your job. Again, not fear breeding, I'm just saying do the work, right? Because when you don't do the work, from experience, life finds a way to make you confront your own issues. And I feel that this healing woman is healing for you, and that this reading is good news, that she's arriving for you in some way, and to kind of keep an eye out for her, right? But that good news, if rejected, turns into a cycle that keeps cycling. Does that make any kind of sense to you? You don't want to, again with the sort of orb and the moon and the wildness of the moon in the tarot, you don't want to keep going around the same old thought processes, my dude. It's not going to benefit you. And looping may be something that you do to emotionally avoid. I'm hearing for some of you that's in a very literal way, like games where things loop, time travel movies, looping the same song over and over again as a safety thing. Something that I learned over the years about CPTSD is that if the C in that means that the PTSD, come on, is not fully expressed or not adequately known about, then the complex bit will do things like put you in a freeze response where you watch the same movies over and over again, or you listen to the same songs over and over again, or, you know, something, and I'm now rocking as I'm saying this, it's like repetitive motion may be another sign. And if it is, and if you don't quite know what needs expressing, or you feel that you don't know the way in, other than to go to this woman, whoever she is, what I would say is look out for times that you are looping, or you're in a loop, which could mean anything from, are you doing the same playlist 5 times, all the way over to, are you getting real deja vu, as in like events feeling like they're looping on you, and what did you say right before that happened, or where were you, or what were you doing? And if it's something you're doing for yourself, you know, again with the movies looping, etc., what's the mood you're in before you do that, right? Who have you been around that day? What kinds of things have been discussed? That'll give you clues, right? It's all leading you back along the path through this garden of innocence into this kind of relationship with this maternal figure, whoever she may be. Excuse me. I know communication is a strong theme here, but could you possibly like sort my throat and my ear out so I can read? Cheers. Just a sec. Wicked. I'm not tired, but I was told that yawning would clear it, and it did. You may need to yawn. Go forth. Okay, so... Oh, that's so much better. Right. I'm going to start to read these together, but this one was obscured, so I'm going to bear in mind that that was under a veil of secrecy, and there's a literal veil here that could drop right on this boat / palanquin, whatever it is. So we got a 9 of Pentacles, an 8 of Swords, a 2 of Cups, a 9 of Cups, and a King of Cups in the reverse. This woman, right? More clues. She may be very... Come on. She might speak in a different accent or literally speak a different language to you, or she may use one of what I call the other languages. So astrology, divination, symbology, archangelic knowledge, all of these kinds of things are other languages. We may not need to use different words in them, but when we interpret them, we are using a different skill set to English or whatever your native language is. So I consider them, you know, the astrological language is a good phrase for things like that. So she may speak another language because of my trouble speaking. She may also be quite wealthy. She may be quite independent. This is very much a single person card. And I'm hearing for some of you, she could be... like spinster used to be a word that was used against women to control them a lot in terms of the political and sort of chattel connotations of marriage, right? It was a shaming word for older women who chose to be on their own or who were on their own, which tells me that she could be a witch, right? Intentionally living that spinster life and okay with labels that are a bit hated. Or she could be a widower. A widow, not a widower. That might be a relevant slip of the tongue, though. For some of you, this is somebody that you listen to as you go to sleep. So I don't know whether this is a tarot person, a podcast person, a lecturer, you know, someone that you felt drawn to, because this person looks like they're reclining and then they're hearing the soothing sound of this. So it could very well be that kind of thing. Actually, the person that I thought of, she wouldn't be a new mentor to me, but when I saw the woman, the energy that I picked up was a bit like Jo McCarthy, who runs Quarrier. And I used to listen to podcast interviews of her as I was going to sleep in times where I wasn't able to access magic, but I was very kind of spiritually fraught. And hearing her talk about things would calm me down enough that I could rest and then do dream work and have very vivid dreams that I could interpret. So it might be that kind of a vibe if you know who she is, or it may just be along similar lines of you've like been listening to this person in the evening. And this is for those of you who know who she is. You may not have met her yet, but these are all things to look out for. There's also something here about you feeling too overwhelmed by emotion to pursue your goals, but you seeing this woman as somehow being very accomplished. Now, for some of you, that's in the sense that she is comfortable being single, if you're not, right? Particularly those who came for that Don Juan reading and got booted out a bit. For others of you, this is just the mountainous kind of 10th house Capricorn-y. This person has worked step by step towards a certain achievement, which you find to be, confirmation, which you find to be very inspiring in some way. But this person laid down is below the waterline, so they feel too bogged down by what they feel, by swimming in emotion. I'm hearing Crash Test Dummies, Swimming in Your Ocean, so I'll link it, see if it's relevant. You may feel too kind of bogged down to take the same path, but you're kind of looking at their path and going, damn, I really admire that. I kind of want to go that same way. I don't know what this is, right? The indication, by the way, is that you will go that same way. You will be climbing a mountain, but there is this emotional clearing work to do first to sort of tap you into your inner child so that you can go forward with this. This woman, if she's not a magical practitioner, there's a very priestly sort of feeling to her. And again, she may not be in the spiritual arts. It could just be a vibe. But there's some it's almost like she's a mediator of some kind between a life that you feel you don't have access to, where each moment is pleasurable for you and you can acknowledge a moment and be in it instead of covering over whatever your experiences are or saving things for best, right? Yeah, or it's like she's got this mediating quality with something higher or with your inner self in some fashion. This is really strange reading, but I'm enjoying it, guys. Okay, so 8 of Swords, but concealed. And it's presenting like a 6 of Swords, so I'm going to read it kind of that way. Also, as this light changed, that blue went to the blue that I use for sort of third eye stuff. It went from a throat colour to a third eye colour, so again, this is a nod towards the psychic senses. So this may be her background. I feel that this person took flight from somewhere in a physical way. They might be a refugee. They might have just moved a lot. They might have chosen to live alone when it was an option to not live alone, in pursuit of, if not a magical discipline, then this different way of thinking about the way that everyone does things. Again, the spinster word is leaping out to me because this could be someone who chooses not to be married and have lots of babies and stuff, and instead is nurturing and birthing to a different kind of an energy. So looking for somebody who's not on a conventional path is what I want to say, but also somebody who felt active pursuit in whatever was before. So they didn't just feel like they didn't want a family. They might have had a really bad experience with family. Or if they've left their old home, it might be that the place they grew up is somewhere that's really fraught for them. Or they might have had like a PTSD experience themselves, with us talking before about freeze responses and healing CPTSD. This may be something they've actively healed, right? That you're kind of looking at their experience of that and going, wow, how did you come from where you came from and get to where you are? Can you give me any tips? But the thing that's hidden from you for the moment, which I'm now allowed to share because this card came in reverse and flipped, is that the trap wasn't the place that they were in. It wasn't even any kind of trauma in a country way or in a natural disaster way or anything like that. That's not to say these things didn't happen to that person circumstantially, but they know that the real gift of them leaving and going to greener pastures was actually that they freed themselves from their own mindset in that sense. This person was trapped in their own head. That was the real journey. And when we speak about the 6 of Swords that this looks like, we talk about intellectual liberation, which again seems a theme for this person, from something which is intellectually draining and which therefore is energetically draining. So somebody who's had literal cognitive issues because of the amount of mental and emotional stuff they were having to deal with, and may have then had a slowing down or a seeming slower to other people as a result of what it was that they experienced. And then they drew a line in the sand and went, listen, if I subtract dealing with this place, that influence, this person, this umbrella understanding of how I should live my life, etc., 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 and I liberate myself from those thoughts, what's going to happen naturally is that I also liberate from the circumstantial things. And in doing that, they were free of the Eight of Swords, which is kind of mental entrapment, right? So in doing that, they can free other people in that way, and that's why you're drawn to them. But I feel that it was hidden because this person doesn't always share their story, right? They're not, for example, someone like me on this channel, where I use myself as an example a lot of the time in order to hopefully illustrate what processes are like for people listening. It's not, it's not an egoic thing. I don't think I'm the only example by any stretch, but sometimes it's a useful analogy. I feel that if this person uses analogy, they don't use their own, right? So they might talk about clients or friends or family members or even just mysterious figures from off in the past, unnamed, right? But they won't speak directly about themselves, even if they are speaking about themselves. That's another clue to who this is, right? If you've ever sat with someone that you feel very inspired by in this intellectual and emotional way, and you feel like you can be your childlike self with, and the way that they were communicating about someone else made you wonder whether they were talking about them just earlier, this is confirmation that that was an accurate hunch for you. This is definitely the kind of teaching tool that that person would use, but in a very private way. And again, I feel that for this person that privacy may have been a necessary one, It could be that they have relatives or friends that were averse to how it was that they wanted to live their life. It could be that they were in some kind of witness protection type thing and they had to take flight in a way that meant secrecy and name changing and all the rest of it. Whatever it is, again, this is a clue to who this person is. And I think that they've come from that position and they've kind of, with this guy rowing, they've really physically dragged themselves to something else in a way that might have been quite strenuous. They may have literally, if this is a person that's moved house or anything, I get them moving boxes by themselves up flights of stairs, or I'm getting an image of when I was house hunting and I had a chest infection at the time. And I was sort of doing things in the snow and everything, and it was really bad as a disabled person, but I knew that if I didn't do it at that time, I wouldn't get a place. And it's that kind of a thing where they may have gone through physical trials. For some of them, it does involve boats and immigration and that kind of stuff, right? Not going to go too far into that, but, my heart goes out to people who are experiencing that. But it's kind of, there was a physical trial following this mental decision to self-liberate, and actually all of those things combined are how this person has become an alchemist of their current circumstance, because it's only by being able to integrate not just what you want in a hypothetical way, not just what you feel you could be going after value-wise, but maybe you will, maybe you won't, and not just I'm going to do this thing with my physical body that's going to be for my betterment. But it's almost like all of these skills were used at once for this person. So they had a physical trial, they had to mentally liberate themselves, they had to emotionally just cope, but not in a way that was held back, in a way that was expressive. They had to redefine who they were mentally, physically, spiritually, and cognitively, and just make something new. And what you're seeing, or what you've been looking up to or will look up to, is this person's new version without seeing the work, which is why this was flipped, right, and the others weren't. It's because they reveal that work, or the extent of it, quite gradually. And also, I think this person maybe could have been shamed for revealing it in the past. They could have had experiences where they start to tell people about the situation that they came from in the hope that they can do some of this kind of intellectual liberation work, or they can speak about ideas with a person. And then it's such a long and arduous tale that it's almost like they get victim shamed, like they get told that it's too negative. The phrase that I'm hearing is something that I see online a lot, sort of used as a bit of a catch-all for ableism, which is good vibes only, right? So the sort of implicit thing in good vibes only is, let's not discuss our negative experiences. Let's presume that everybody can keep up. Let's presume that nobody's feeling worse than anyone else. And if you don't abide by those rules, you're out, right? I actually hate the phrase good vibes only. I feel like it's whitewashing. That's not to say that this person doesn't have good vibes. I think actually they may have, dare I say, better vibes than you right now, because they are in touch with their eternal child. They might be doing really well. They might be having a great time. And they might come across as somebody who is joyous, who is enthusiastic, who is turned on in some way intellectually by what they're doing with their life. But I think part of why they keep private is security, and part of why they keep private is that if they share too much about where they came from, the good vibes only crowd, who aren't ready to see all that or be patient with someone from a different background, or who don't value difference truly, are going to be like, well, get out then. You're too Debbie Downer for us, or that's too long a story. You know, what's that expression on Reddit? Too long didn't read, right? They've had a lot of too long didn't read around them. So something else to know about this person, and this is perhaps getting a little personal for a mentoring dynamic, but I do feel that no matter how, this is a lot, I do feel no matter how this person expresses, they're kind of shunned. Because, and that is the role of the witch in the end, isn't it? It's the role of the spinster at the edge of the woods. Everyone hates them. The Christians, the people who want to be witches and aren't yet, the people who are superstitious about whatever they do, you know, you name it, the atheists, the skeptics. There's a feeling that if they come from the place of this is how much I've endured and alchemized and, you know, not surpassed, what's the word? Overcome, right? If they come from that place of let me tell my story, this is how much has happened, they are booted out by the good vibes only, and they will sort of draw in shallow people to sort of mirror back the shallowness of those people. And it's like a weird, horrible dynamic that they don't enjoy and that the other people don't enjoy, right? Other people find the long story tiresome. They find people finding that story tiresome to be selfish. So there's some sort of not great there, so they don't share too much. But then on the flip side, this could also be a person, and I'm thinking of Alice's channel, is it Love Exists Visions? But she always talks about stuff like this. I'll link it if I remember, but she's great with this kind of feeling. But there's a sense with this person that when they came out as new, in a new place, with a new setup, and they were like, hey, I've solved all my former problems. Don't I look glamorous? Don't I come across as wealthy? Haven't I achieved a lot? Aren't I now happy and stable? And can we all share in this happiness and stability? Because that's what you guys wanted, right? When they're in that energy, they get haters because people are jealous. And they get people kind of trying to sabotage where it is that they've gotten themselves as a result of clawing themselves out of the mud. So it's sort of, you know, the thing that Spirit's showing me is in The Princess Bride, where he climbs up the rock face in order to get to the top and have a sword fight, right? So he's climbed this impossible thing. He's succeeded in scaling the side of a country in order to go and rescue the princess. But in doing so, the first person he's met with at the top of the thing wants to fight him to the death. And interestingly, because that film is comedic and it's based on an even better book, there is a rest period where the guy at the top that wants to fight him says, you know what, actually, you've just scaled that rock face. Take a minute. It's fine. And I think that that is Spirit's illustration for me. Because for this person, this mentor, this liberator coming in, they weren't given a respite of Inigo Montoya saying, you know what, you've done a lot. sit down a minute, it's fine. I can wait and then we'll fight to the death, right? It was just a transference immediately from everything is awful, I should leave and liberate myself on every level, straight over into now I'm living my best life and everyone wants to come for me because I'm living well. So again, this is coming up to illuminate who this person is to you, but also to show you that even in this journey that you're making towards this eternal childlike state where you can appreciate each moment, having the same achievements of mind as this person is itself not a picnic, right? And I'm now hearing in The Fisher King, fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what movies you like. Go watch The Fisher King. Pause this, watch it. But anyway, where Jack Lucas is sat shit-faced with his Pinocchio toy, having hit rock bottom, and he's saying to the Pinocchio, or to no one in particular, that his autobiographical thing, once he's, retired from being a shock jock because he's inadvertently made someone kill people. Long story. He says, ain't no fucking picnic, the Jack Lucas story. And he says it slowly and slurred, but it's like, yeah, you're right, it wasn't a fucking picnic. And now here we are, and we almost don't feel any better, right? And this person does feel better. But I think almost this is advice to you. That, like, yes, they are a master of something in particular, or they are essentialist or aesthete or a healing, childlike, liberating intellectual force to behold, but it ain't no fucking picnic how they got there. And you need to, even as they are potentially a teacher for you and a healer for you, this person might also need approaching with kid gloves a little bit, because my feeling is that they're not used to people like you, even if they can help you. They're used to helping people, but not people with, confirmation, sorry. Not people with your specific story, yeah? Whew, can we move things along a bit, guys? Right. So we've got Two of Cups. Then we've got two people who are very alike, just after I said about those differences, stirring the recipe together, right? So this is an indication to me that whatever it is that you would like to cook up with this person, whatever skills that you would like to consolidate and sort of offer to them and say, hey, can you help me develop with this? Even if it's just in a life way, right? Even if this is some kind of destiny contract with this person. I do feel that you are more similar than either of you believe on first meeting, and that you can cook up something unique. And I'm smelling the recipe as I say it. Now earlier, again, when I was on my walk, there was a certain stretch that I walked through which goes behind some houses, and I could smell bolognese the most powerfully that I've ever smelt in my life. And I didn't know how much I needed bolognese until that moment, right? And I came home and actively made some, and it's been, I don't know, 6 months since I've had it, and it was the best bolognese I've ever tasted, because all day I was thinking about it, right? This isn't just me expressing my love of Italian food. This is me saying that in collaboration, you guys are going to cook up something that's so good, people can smell that it's what they need, that they never knew they needed, right? It's the bolognese for everybody else. If you guys can put your heads together with this person's liberating thought patterns and your newly restored energy, because you're back in your eternal joy, or you're back into following your bliss or your law of assumption territory for those who follow that, if you're both in your power is what I'm saying, there is like a power couple energy here, although it's not romantic, of you guys just like cooking up something that the whole town can smell, right? Or that everybody in both of your lives can benefit from in some way. So there is a sense that, like, yes, you're coming to this person as a tutor or as like a slightly wiser person in a particular realm. I do think you're quite equal footing maybe in terms of backgrounds, but just different backgrounds. But the word I'm hearing is sensei. So you're like coming to them as like, hey, sensei, can you can you let me in on how it was that you freed yourself from this, or how you go about living this way, or whatever it is. And I think that it will begin as a mentoring dynamic in that kind of a way, or that's your kind of way in with this person, but that then past a certain point, you're going to be on equal footing, looking like two parts of the same Gemini energy, and kind of releasing goodness out into the world, releasing good smells, good vibes. Scent is something that we can use to cleanse, and it's also something to do with memory. So I feel like even if the way that you guys collaborate is to make memories with each other of a certain quality, the sharing of those memories or the witnessing of them for other people, or just being like, ironically, good vibes people with each other, right? Not good vibes only, but good vibes, will have a knock-on ripple effect to everyone around you that is cosmically beneficial, which is why it's turning up today. Because it's not just that you want to learn from this person, or that this person wants to help you or have an interesting conversation with you, or whatever it may be. It's also that the universe wants you guys to collaborate on something that everyone else can smell cooking. Okay, so 9 of Cups with King of Cups in reverse. These two are together. I think you have a dream that you haven't admitted to yourself. King of Cups reversed is, all of these can mean many things, but it's sort of a denial of something emotional again, right? But it's not in the way of repression like this. It's in the sense of if I pretend I don't want it, I won't miss it. But that's been bollocks, it's the energy of the King of Cups in reverse in this particular instance is a vibe of, if I say that I was never running after that, when I don't get to it, it won't matter to other people that I've failed. Which is a horrible mindset with anything. I don't care what your dream is. And the 9 of Cups is a dream realised, and as you can see in this instance, it's a dream shared. And there is also I see these sort of checkerboard patterns as a bit tricksterish for various reasons. And I don't mean trickster in the negative, I mean it in the sense of like trickster gods and positive, playful influences. Again, tapping into that inner child, into joyousness and humour as a healer, as a liberator, into banishing by laughter or telling a joke to heal a trauma or a circumstance or something like that. Telling a funny story. It's kind of a funny story, right? It's this, yeah, you get the vibe. But it's that with getting what your wish is, and then it's an inverse of the energy of saying you didn't want it because you're not going to get it anyway. So all of this coming together is telling me that yes, we know about this person, but if we're going to talk a bit more about you, I don't feel it's the same emotional expression that's going on here, but there's something emotionally that you long for or that you want, that you've been, I don't know whether you've been convincingly telling yourself, but you've certainly been telling other people that it's not something you want, so that you won't have to talk about it with them when you don't get it, right? This could be circumstantial. The example that's coming into my mind, and I'm sorry if this is you, is like for somebody who's, for instance, unable to have children, you may be very like pro-child free in your sort of the way that you speak to your friends or on your social media, or you may be very much championing the rights of people who choose not to have children, but some of that is because you wanted them. Again, it's an example, it won't apply to everybody. I'm very much like for the child-free life, if that's for you. And this isn't a pet reading either, so I'm not speaking directly to those issues. It's just an example, right? But it's a good example because something that you did want, or something that felt quite natural to you, that's been crossed out for you, you're now making out like that was your decision. That's what it is. That's the crux of it. And that's why I had to use that example. So another example, just so I'm not pissing anybody off, might be somebody who went down a particular career path because of the value systems around them and told themselves that that was something they always wanted, because they knew realistically that to go down a different avenue, they would have to either disconnect from the sources of those values or, you know, not do it at all. It was like a choice between, I can either be what everybody else wants me to be, or I can be what I want and lose everything I already have. And this person may have chosen, okay, I will convince myself that this is what I wanted, right? It actually reminds me of a friend who sort of, how much do I want to say? I'm allowed to? Yeah, okay. So I have a particular friend who went into a certain relationship dynamic that they later expressed might not be for them. But I think that the reason that they went into that was that they maybe were told that they couldn't have the other thing, or they believed they couldn't have the other thing. And so the only way to like make it okay was to outright reject the other thing in a very sort of vehement, performative, public manner, right? To say, oh, that's not for me, and anybody who goes for that is stupid because they're thinking this way and blah, blah, blah. Again, liberation from thought patterns is important. I like to speak a lot on this channel about sort of KO principles, one of which is kind of looser version of everything is true, nothing is permitted, because that can get a bit morally like, all right, son, no. But a kind of every paradigm is true if you think about it long enough, right? I think that maybe what was natural to your inner eternal child, your sensualist, your aesthete, your enjoyer of every single moment, the person within you who is honest with you, was to pursue a certain thing. That thing circumstantially at some stage was crossed out for you, out of your control, and a very deep, unconscious possible part of you said, right, I'm going to pretend that I am the biggest advocate for never doing that thing that I wanted of anyone that I know. And I'm going to be loud about it. I'm going to make placards. I'm going to go to protests. I'm going to make sure that I bring it up with everybody that I'm around. Just so that everyone gets the idea that I'm really anti that life, because I definitely didn't want it and failed to get it. And when I say that, I'm not calling you a failure, right? God knows there's enough pathways in my life that were crossed out for me, right, that I failed to do, but actually it was to lead me to the things that I would not fail at, that I was meant to do, right? And when I say failure, I say it very loosely and with the idea of not determinism, but perhaps some fated events in mind, or at least an angle that the universe likes you to kind of squint through, right? There tends to be correlatively a meaning to all these things that leads one down a particular avenue that they couldn't have got to without those experiences. So when I say that you failed to complete the dream, I'm not talking about a failure on your part. I'm talking about not having that thing open to you. So becoming very, as I say, demonstrative about, well, that wasn't for me anyway, and I think it's bollocks for anybody, and these are my 20 reasons why, which you will hear whether or not you're interested. And these in combination are telling me that actually, whether it's through a direct healing or whether it's through a series of coincidences set off by this being the first domino, I think you're going to let go of the need to protest against this dream, and you're maybe even going to get it. Right? Whether it seems impossible, whether it seems too late, whether it seems medically unlikely, confirmation. And believe me, I'm on like a certain timeline prognosis wise, so this hits me as much as anyone, right? But I think that something you thought to be a certainty about your future in terms of the opportunities available requires more faith from you. Requires, even if it's a temporary assumption, it requires an assumption that you are actually going to get that thing. You know, in my example, you are actually going to live a little longer, so maybe invest a bit more. Or you are actually going to have to explain to all the people that you badmouth this to that realistically, yeah, you did want that, sorry, and you're kind of now all for it. That may mean that as this person has lost people along the way, you might lose people along the way. That is part of the bargain of meeting what I want to call a magical person, right? Whether that's in every sense or just in the sense of them kind of stepping into the bar in that very Russian literature fashion and everything changes, right? It's the stranger coming in from the snow at night. That might be the walking against the snow thing. But after the arrival of this person, I don't think things are going to be the same for you. And I think that, you know, it doesn't have to be a romantic thing. We always make it that, right? With these, oh, they will be life-changing for you type readings. The feeling I'm getting, honestly, is not romantic for the vast majority of you. It's the sense that you come across somebody whose thought process is so much of what you need, that everything starts to, your house of cards starts to fall. And what remains standing is actually what was true to you. That is the wisdom in the tower, in the original tarot deck, right? It's that anything that has sturdy foundations will remain upright, and anything that didn't, you know, Tower of Babel style, will come down, will come crashing down. And there'll be kind of no mercy with that because it wasn't for you. That may also be why I was getting this House of Leaves, this is not for you type thing earlier. Okay, so 5 of Wands, the Knight of Cups in reverse, and the Queen of Swords in reverse. The first thing I want to say is that either you or this person might be quite elitist, and I want you to let that go. So if this person is a little bit snooty about how much you know at first, or ways in which you're prepared to think, or ideas that you, as of yet, haven't left behind, I think that you need to approach them, considering how much they will mean to you, with a bit of a pinch of salt in terms of like, don't be too offended by that, right? And if instead you feel like you could maybe be the elitist party and hello, high fidelity gang, I am you, then it's saying temper this around this person. Remember we talked about handling them with kid gloves, even if you feel that they're in some way superior in knowledge. There's a sense of not being rude, right? And particularly if this is deific, bearing in mind that one of the examples I used was the Baba Yaga, if you don't use exactly the right words around her and then do all of the actions required and treat her house the way that her house requires treating, and treat her horsemen in the woods in the correct fashion, etc., etc., she will eat you. She has no qualms about this. She's the original, you know, pre-Hansel and Gretel witch that will just eat you. But if you approach her with the right phrases, if you're kind to her house, if you do all the tasks she sets for you, if you pay attention through her horsemen to what time of day or night it is, and if you tell her the absolute truth, she's a donor figure. She's a patron. She's you know, she's very misunderstood and much maligned, but actually she rescues people in the tales quite often a lot more earlier you go than she eats them. It's that she's also capable of eating them, right? It's the archetypal witch. It's, I could fuck over your entire universe with one set of curses, right? One statement. Or I could heal your entire universe, or facilitate you healing it, in this case, with the same amount of words. So are you going to be cool around me, or are you not, right? And I don't think this figure will come across as threatening because of the vibe in all these cards. I think if anything, they'll come across as very nurturing, very sweet. And and the rose was, you know, I bumped into it and it concerned me then. So it's this rose-like soft energy, right? But many types of roses also have thorns, and many symbolic roses in fairy tales speak about this duality. The roses growing around Sleeping Beauty's castle to protect her dreaming with their thorns, right? It's an act of love. It's a plant ally devotional thing, as well as holding lots of mystic rose meanings. But it's also a massive threat if you're a prince trying to hack through the thorns to get to her, or worse, right? So I do feel that this person will come across in a kindly way. I'm now hearing the kindly ones, so that will be relevant for some. I think that's the next, is that the next Sandman, the filming? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, but there's this thing of like, no matter how gently and delicately and rose-like this person expresses to you, be aware that they have thorns too, and be good to them. Treat them as tenderly as you would a plant. Maybe that's why they're gardening, right? So many plants in one reading. Maybe this is why, because plant medicine is, well, in a lot of sort of native traditions, it's to do with the emotions as well. Hit me up in the comments if you've got more detail on that, because I don't want to be appropriative or speak too much on what isn't my area. But then also the plant community speaks to this gentleness. You've got to handle them in a certain way. You've got to offer them a different kind of touch than you do to humans, a different kind of care than you would to a human baby, right? So there's all that kind of playing in of like, this person may be as delicate as a flower. They're not, but treat them as well as if they were a flower, right? Or if this person is showing you their thorns first, again, patience, because there is a rose there. Five of Wands with the Knight of Cups reversed. There may be an inner conflict with this. In the same way that this person left behind their origins in order to liberate themselves in what came to become a liberation of other people in some way. My sort of heads up for you is that part of this mentoring or friendship or whatever it is will be that there are things that you're going to have to leave behind to be allowed, I want to say, in the court of this person, right? So again, it's this like very sort of supreme energy. This woman is facing away from, again, mountains, so former achievements. But I feel that this is also like maybe, I mean, you do you, general reading, but like could be friendships, could be lineage or traditions therein, or people that you wanted to impress that won't be impressed by this stuff, or a certain line of work that you might feel that you need to leave but you haven't yet, or, you know, whatever you kind of have to let go of loudly protesting against in this, the lady doth protest too much energy over here. I feel that it's something you might have to leave behind in a more conscious, almost ceremonial way at a later stage within this. Yeah. So something I want to say is that this tree in the background is like it's really, really tall. It's like taller than any man. So there's something here, yes, about squabbles, about fighting, about leaving some petty stuff behind or coming up against some petty circumstance, because that's, you know, the traditional meaning. But with the tree, it's like, what legacy are you leaving that will live longer than a person and stand taller than any person? And is that, in fact, more important than this? So for some of you, that could be to do with literal family. I mean, this figure could also be a midwife or something like that, right? But for others of you, this is your kind of slap round the head from spirit to say, sorry if that's triggering, I shouldn't really talk about them that way. But it's to sort of say, what do you think is fucking important? Keeping the credit of where you are, or actually developing into what it was that you said you wanted to develop into. Actually leaving a legacy. Actually growing, evolving, getting so tall that you can see farther than the people that you've perhaps been around. And you have the ability to wield that perspective in this eternal child moment-to-moment way that is very adept, I want to say. And that might be a loaded word, because you might literally be training to be an adept. There's a thing of like, you can't have both here. So there needs to be a low-key preparation. And maybe that's part of this emotional thing. Maybe it's a grief thing, right, as well. There needs to be a low-key preparation of, I'm going to have to let go of some stuff to step forward into this, because it's outside my comfort zone. And I can either choose not to and cling on to stuff that at the moment makes my ego feel good, or I could choose to go with it, knowing that if I chose not to, life would still probably push me in that direction, just more dramatically and with more, crises. See earlier speech. Knight of Cups reversed with a trickster outfit again is some of these things that you will be leaving behind are empty promises anyway. Again, card of many meanings, but some of this particular knight in reverse are like love bombing type energies, or charlatans, or charlatanism, or it makes me think of like MLMs, right? That kind of a thing of, you just do this, 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 and this, and you hook this many people into our way of thinking, and we promise you, fingers crossed, that you'll get this and this and this. And it sort of goes on forever and ever, and at the end, nobody really is rich except the person at the head of the chain. It's that vibe. So I think that whatever you are leaving behind, whether that's professional, personal, ideological, you do you, boo. There's an extent to which it's fake, or it's false promises, or like maybe you're used to performing that it was the thing you wanted, because that performance in itself was the key to hiding who you fear you are, that will be laughed at, or that will be not enough for your dream, or that failed in some way. And this is your call to say, listen, this is a big deal. This person is a huge deal for you, but you're going to have to leave some shit behind, because you can't check all of this baggage, right? You're only allowed this much on the plane. So you choose now what's important to you. And my advice would be to choose stuff that's long-lasting, that's far-reaching, that's natural to you, that's in this moment-to-moment appreciative energy, which trees often sort of emit. You've really got to consider the man or woman or other that you wish to become here, and not the stature of the person that you've orchestrated yourself to look like. I'm not trying to shame you. We all do it, right? It's an important stage. And in some ways, it's a lifelong thing, just in smaller ways with smaller things, hopefully fading smaller and smaller. But if you're seeing this, you have been performing as a certain sort of a person for what I want to say is a very long time. And I think consciously that whatever this woman promises is what you want. But what you might not consciously realise, or what you're just coming to grips with in a very uncomfortable way, is that in order to go after that, you're going to have to let go of everything that isn't that. And that sometimes means shit you love, or that you've worked really hard to become or look like or feel like. And there are spots in this that you might feel weak, right? Part of returning to childlike innocence is being vulnerable. And I think that whatever this is, yes, it will expand you intellectually, and maybe even in a literal healing fashion. And it will certainly help you to become more nurturing and more in the moment. But also, it's going to make you more vulnerable. It's going to make you raw at points. And that's part of the blessing of it. Perhaps also part of the reason this person was walking into the snow when I saw them is the idea that snow is innocence, right? And they're walking into a state of vulnerability and innocence all the time. And that's something which perhaps is very antithetical to the way that you've been living. And you might be desirous of that quality. You might want to be or want to feel more innocent or more new, or you might want a clean slate. But the wisdom in that image is that walking into the snow is actually a tough thing to do. It's cold, it's harsh. It requires that this person is constantly determined and knows where they're going, because they certainly can't see. There's also something here about the idea that snow freezes states over. So in order to become vulnerable, you might have to put in the freezer, cosmically, some of the ideas that you had, some of the notions that you had about the kind of trappings that you wanted in your life, or the kinds of things that you'd thought were sure things for yourself. And if they're meant to be defrosted, they will, right? Snow melts. But I'm afraid that you can't take all of it with you. And sometimes when the snow melts, it degrades whatever it froze, right? Some foods survive being in a freezer, other foods are salad. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to be like this person and walk into the snow and be ready to freeze your tits off, whether or not in that process of freezing up some of your life and putting it on hold, you might return to that bit and it might have rotted away. The snow will have melted, but what was there might not be there anymore. And the bits that were meant to be there, the plant life, if you like, the trees, the rocks, your foundation, they will remain when the snow melts. The important things will stay. So, this was a long one and I'm sorry that it was, but I feel like it needed to be in depth. I hope that this was useful to you in whatever way it hit. Please do let me know in the comments how it hit, what it was about for you, whether you know this person already, whether they're even a person. They might be a deity or a discipline or something like that. If you want a private booking with me, the link is in the description, as is hopefully a link to like a lucky dip of all the readings ever on my channel. But I am a smaller channel with a big message. You may notice that my numbers are not that high, even if my words are many, right? So if you want to encourage me in the world, if you want me to get bigger, if you want stuff like this to get out there, please hit like, please subscribe, please ding the dong. Thank you kindly, and I will see you in the next reading.